Thank you all for giving us the time to speak with you today. The counselors have put together a little workshop for you on praise in the classroom. And this is something we all do every day, whether consciously or unconsciously. Often it's just a knee-jerk reaction in the classroom where we say, great job on that assignment, or that was a really smart observation, or you're working really hard, keep it up. It's something that we do constantly, but don't really spend a lot of time thinking about what impact it can have in the classroom. So what we want to do today is really explore what that praise does as far as student achievement and how we can focus our praise so it's more effective. So this first slide, you are smart. How many of you have ever said that to a student? Yeah, I see a lot of hands. So whenever we say you are smart, we often are just saying, okay, they said something really good in class, we want to reward that. So we tell them that they're smart because it's nice to hear that. I like to hear that I'm smart. I'm sure most of you like to hear that you're smart. But what we don't think about is what impact this can have on students, not just the one you're telling you are smart, but also the other students in the classroom who may or may not ever get told that they are smart. So this is something I want us to think about a little more in depth. So let's go ahead and split off into your tables that you're at. And I want you to spend 3 minutes now just going over these few items, talking about how many of you have said to students that you're smart, and thinking about what situations you said that, and then what did you really mean when you were saying that, and what impact did it have? And after you're done discussing, we'll come back together as a group. Okay, our 3 minutes are up. So I went around and I heard a few of you talking. It sounds like almost everyone in the room has said this at some point. In the situations we've said that were often when a student made a really good observation, did really well on a project or an assignment. And what we meant was good job or something to that effect. So what I want us to think about as we're going through is how we can say good job or you're doing great work without immediately going to this knee-jerk of you are smart. And thinking through what it actually means and what we're trying to encourage in the classroom, and whether it's intelligence we're trying to encourage or hard work that will lead to success. So another thing I want us to think about that's really related to this idea of whether we're praising intelligence or hard work is the idea of whether intelligence is actually changeable. And this is a debate we've read about in science class back when we were at school, and something you probably talked about in your education classes, or even maybe as colleagues, after school over a drink. So this is what I want you to talk about your small groups now for 2 minutes, and then again we'll come back together. Okay, 2 minutes are up. I heard a lot of interesting opinions on this. Some people, most people thought changeable and it's decided by environment, but I did hear some arguments that also decided by genetics, and most tables seem to come to some middle ground between these two, which really is probably the most accurate place to be. Anytime we have this dichotomous argument, usually the answer does lie somewhere in the middle. So as far as it being unchangeable and decided by genetics, there is a genetic factor to intelligence. I'm not going to argue that and tell you that that isn't there. There is some predisposition. But the research is very strong that whatever the initial genetic setup may be as far as a person's intelligence, it is changeable. Environment does have an impact. Environment does have an impact. They've done studies looking at twins and separating them and seeing one grows up in an environment with a lot of poverty, without a lot of support, and another grows up in an environment where they have all of these resources, are always provided with books, go to the best free schools, things like that. And there is a difference in how those two develop, and they don't end up in the same place. One of them typically will end up scoring higher on tests, gain better grades in school, and having better life outcomes than the other. So, another item that really shows that intelligence is changeable is this idea called the Flynn effect. And you'll notice the chart goes from 32 up to 78. So, some of you may immediately start questioning, well, wait a minute, what about till now? But the really important thing to pick up is that there was change during this time period. And while some of this change may have leveled off at this point, that doesn't mean we can't turn this around and get it to keep going upwards. So starting out when IQ tests were first formulated back in the early 1900s, the average IQ was around 100. As we've progressed as societies, we've become more industrialized, technology has improved, education has improved, we've seen a trend upwards in IQ scores, not just in the United States, but across the world and all countries. And this has been tied largely to industrialization and development of nations. And a lot of that then is also tied to education, because as countries become more developed, they tend to have stronger education systems, have more mandatory education, and this impact is seen in the average IQ score. So this is great evidence to take back and say, okay, what I do in the classroom really matters and can really have an impact on me.
All right, so Mr. Buck just did a really good job of talking to us about intelligence, and he left off talking about the Flynn effect and how over time intelligence and environmental factors have definitely had a really important impact on intelligence or degrees of intelligence. So now we're going to talk about why knowing that intelligence is changeable is so important. We don't want to just be stuck in this one thing and think, a child can't shift or a child can't move or can't grow. So, one of the things we're going to talk about are the theories of intelligence. We have two theories of intelligence here. We have entity theory of intelligence and incremental theory of intelligence. Has anybody ever heard those terms before? Okay, one or two hands, that's good. So, with entity theory, it means that the people believe that intelligence is fixed. No matter what, whatever you're born with, it's going to stay that way. You're not going to be able to learn any additional things. It's just based off of what you were born with, and that's how you're going to be. On the other hand, incremental theory of intelligence talks about, that theory focuses on how intelligence is malleable, which means it can be changed. You can definitely, there are things you can do that can help to change your intelligence or to improve your intelligence. So there's been lots of research about identical twins. So say for instance, we have a pair of identical twins, and they are adopted. And one of the identical twins is in a family that's wealthy. They have monetary resources as well as other resources that can be beneficial to the child. And then on the other hand, you have the other identical twin is adopted out to a poor family. And what this basically saying is that intelligence, the incremental theory of intelligence saying that with these two different environments, this child's intelligence can be changed. It can be different based off of the environment they're growing up in. The difference may be due to the fact that one was adopted by a richer family, better schooling, better nutrition, and higher parental involvement. And all these factors as to why the child that was adopted into the richer family has a higher level of intelligence in comparison to their identical twin that was adopted into the poor family. Alright, so the next thing we're going to take and look at is why knowing intelligence is changeable is so important is belief drives the action. So not only the beliefs of the teachers, but also the beliefs of the students. The teachers' beliefs definitely have a really big impact on how they teach their students. If teachers go into the classroom and their preference is, I want all of my students to be smart. Okay, it sounds okay, but that internalizes with the student and that environment that the teacher is producing eventually has an effect on all the students, whether it be in a positive way or in a negative way. So some students will respond to that statement saying, or the teacher's preference in their style of teaching, like, well, I can do this, I can adapt to this, but then other students, are going to internalize it and say, no, I'm dumb, I can't really do this, I can't keep up, and that the teacher perception definitely plays a very important role. students who believe affect their motivation, it can also affect their self-esteem and then their overall academic performance. So as we previously mentioned, we talked about the two different theories. We had entity theory and then we had incremental theory. Students who are students who experience motivation decline are related more to entity theory. And basically what that means is that those students tend to they feel like they're stuck in that one place and they can't grow. Like we said with entity theory. However, students that are motivation maintainers tend to be more related to incremental, and they are able to grow and continue to grow from whatever stage they might be at the time. All right, any questions about that? All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the risk of praising students as smart. We kind of touched on that a little bit, but students, if we're constantly praising students and saying that they're smart, then they're more likely to think that it's inborn or something that they were born with and they're supposed to have. And if they don't feel like they're smart, then they just feel like they didn't have it at all. They weren't born with it, so why even try? Why even put forth the effort if they feel like, well, I don't have it, so why why even try to do anything different to improve who I am as a student? They're likely to attribute their failure to a lack of ability and believe that high effort implies low ability. So basically what that means is if it's not coming natural for them and if they have to put in more work and more effort, that means that they aren't as successful as other students and that their ability is really low. And they're always, or they're more likely to shy away from challenges if they don't, they're constantly hearing that one group is smart or the other group is, and they aren't part of that particular group. They might continue, or they might try to shy away. Alright, so praise effort. We all definitely want our students to succeed, but we have to be mindful of praising their effort. Can anybody tell me what we think they mean about praising effort? Alright, so when we say praising effort, we're talking about how students, or of course the word effort in general, is just saying how students are perceiving how you are responding to them as a teacher. Okay? So there's a lot of research supporting that students who believe that intelligence can be improved with hard work and effort get higher grades in academics. So how can we show our students, and we're going to discuss it a little bit later, what ways can we show our students that their effort isn't going unnoticed? They believe that they can become smarter by learning new things, and even if it is frustrating them, if they are still failing, acknowledging their efforts that they are making in the classroom will definitely influence them in a better way. All right. Any questions about this side of the parts that I've gone over so far? All right, we're going to move right on.
Nikita has covered a lot about the importance of praising effort, and following we discussed about how we can praise effort in our classroom. Just make sure we run through 4 points in the classroom. First, praise hard work and tell students that hard work pays off. You want to encourage your students that intelligence is under their control and they can improve their intelligence through hard work. Show the students how hard famous scientists, inventors, authors, or other geniuses must work to reach success. If some of the students in your classroom are not studying something, tell them that most students who do well in school work quite hard. Second point, praise persistence when your students are facing challenges and treat failure as a natural way of learning. If students want to increase their intelligence, they have to challenge themselves, and which means they have to take on tasks that are a bit beyond their ability. They might fail as for the first time, but as long as you tell them that if they persevere and if they remove the fear of failure, they will succeed in the end. And try to create a classroom environment in which failure is not embarrassing or wholly negative. Let students understand failure. If they fail, that means they're about to learn. Because just find out something they don't really know, and then something that they don't know how to do yet. And model this attitude for your students. When they fail, let them see that to take a positive and learning attitude. Let's see the third point. Please taking responsibility for students' hard work. So responsibility is something that matters in students' whole life. Tell them that if they're the owners of their life and they make their life to be what they want it to be through hard work. If you praise students for taking responsibilities, you're giving them the sense of ownership. And this sense of ownership is going to motivate them and kind of like enhance their learning outcomes. Also, if you can show that you support them, you have confidence in them, that would be great because they know they're not fighting alone, they have your support. Fourth point, avoid insincere praise. Dishonest praise is just as destructive as no praise at all. And when you say to a student, well, wow, you've worked really hard on this project, when the student actually know that he or she doesn't do this, then you lose your credibility. Let's go to the next slide. Now I want you guys to have a little bit of discussion on this question. If a student fails at something for the first time, what would you say? Alright, so I get some responses and let's see some examples here. So you might say, I'm sorry you didn't make it this time, but believe that next time if you work hard, you'll make it. And keep trying, I'll be here if any help you want. And then failure is a mark of success. And if the student succeeds this time, you might say, you've worked hard and are doing great this time, just keep the mood. Well, we had another discussion. If a student has failed something more than one time, like several times, and they feel really frustrated, what would you say or do? And this time, you want to make sure that you know the importance. Like, this time, make sure that you know that you have to be realistic about what it takes for students to catch up. As Matthew Effect tells us, the more we know, it is easier that we can learn new things, vice versa. So if your slower students have no less than brighter students, don't expect that they can learn at the same pace as others. If they want to catch up, they need more hard work and they need more encouragement. It might be good if you can set interim objectives together with them, like those are achievable and concrete, like watching an educational DVD on science or having like a certain amount of time for homework every day. If possible, get parents on board in such efforts. It will be of enormous help. Now we have another small group discussion to see whether you have learned something from this lecture. Make sure you address the 3 questions within 5 minutes. How, if at all, have you used of intelligence changed today? And what can you do in your classroom to praise effectively and encourage growth? And how does this research behind students' praise influence your thinking on all the practices you have used or have seen in the classroom? I have, 5 minutes is up, and I heard that you guys are talking about reinforcing intelligence changeability, and you said something really good, that you want to praise work that leads to intelligence, that leads to knowledge instead of knowledge itself. And also, you said something about grading based on students' effort, based on students' improvement, based on students' resilience, and their challenge orientation. That is great. Also, some people mentioned to have more project-based learning instead of mere lecturing. These are great. Well, is that for praising effort? Let's see what else we can do. 3 points. We can praise progress, we can encourage in-depth learning, and we can evaluate students based on their growth, which you guys have mentioned. So, praise progress. We have some researchers that show teachers should focus on students' improvement instead of success or failure. Don't even allow students the opportunity to form a fixed mindset that they are smart only if they succeed without effort. As teachers, you can portray challenging tasks as fun, exciting, and easy tasks is less useful for the brain. And they encourage in-depth learning. It is recommended by researchers that teachers should give like a certain amount of problems that have no clear-cut answers, so that students know that higher level learning is more challenging and a great deal of time and effort are required in order to succeed. Let's move on to evaluate students based on growth. The way in which teachers evaluate the students' work to help students develop a growth mindset. Whenever students say, I can't do something, or I'm not good at something, you need to add the word yet to let them know that ability is fluid and they can actually improve their ability through hard work. Some schools have done a great job. They reward students they reward students hard work by basing their grades on challenge orientation. We have to mention that. And other schools use pre and post tests to let students and the teachers and the parents to know how much improvement the students have made. So far, any questions? All right. So I think that's all for our workshop, and here are some readings that you might refer to in your teaching career. And then that's it. Thank you for coming. Have a good day.